5-star Tavern versus 1-star Premium. Let's see how well they face off. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha. You can call me Aka. So, Duty Generals. You know them, you love them. Okay, well, maybe you don't love them, but Evony certainly wants you to love them. As we well know, Duty Generals form an important part of our Evony game. And we know that we have the standard Tavern Duty Generals, and we also have the Premium Duty Generals. In fact, we have the 1st Gen Premium and the 2nd Gen Premium for a lot of the duty posts that we have now. And a lot of people have been wondering whether it is worthwhile for them to still stick with the Tavern Generals or bite the bullet and move towards the Premium Generals, even though it costs a bit. So what we're going to do here is we're going to compare the Tavern Duty Generals fully ascended against the Premium Duty Generals with 1 Ascension. And we'll talk about the reason for that as we go along. Now, before we move any further, okay, I want us to establish 2 points that we need to keep in mind throughout the entirety of this video. The first point is that fully maxed out Premium Duty Generals are much better than the Tavern Duty Generals. Okay, that's an objective fact. Let's establish that now. The second one, Premium Duty Generals on average cost about $100 to $150 per copy. So that's an important point to note. Some of the Duty Generals will cost more, some, depending on how lucky you are, you could get them for less, but on average, that's the cost range that we'll be looking at. All right, so with those facts established, I'm going to switch over to the spreadsheet and then we can start taking a look at the stats of the Duty Generals. Okay, guys, want to put a quick word in for the Amazon App Store. Now, some of you might know this, but for anyone that doesn't, the App Store is officially ending all third-party services by the 20th of August this year. So, if you have Amazon coins that you have already paid for towards Evony, you need to use those before the 20th of August. Now, if you're someone that uses an Amazon device, don't worry, you will still have access to the App Store and its main features, so you can continue to do your thing on there. Aside from that, of course, there are going to be lots of Evony events running. I'm going to stay on top of that, so you guys make sure you stay on top of it too. And there's going to be a new Evony Discord opening up for us to stay connected. Link to the Discord is down in the description. That's it, guys. Remember the D-date, 20th of August. Okay, so we have our spreadsheet here, and the first set of generals that we're going to be looking at are the Keep Duty Generals. Okay, so we've got Menshikov, we've got Ashoka, and we've got Hera. Right, we're going to be comparing these ones first. So here we have the stats for Menshikov laid out for us. Okay, note that these are all in-city stats. All right, so all these buffs we're looking at here are in-city. So this is what he gets for attack, for ground, range, mounted, siege. This is what he gets for defense. This is what he gets for HP. Okay, and this is when he's fully ascended. All right, then he also gets 30% construction and 6% attack debuff for all troops. Now, note, this is without specialties. All right, so this is Menshikov fully done up. Okay, now, here we have the stats for Ashoka. All right, and Ashoka is the 1st Gen Premium Duty General, and this is when he's ascended to 1 star. Okay, so these are the stats that he gets. He gets 20% for ranged. All right, and you note that this stat here, I've highlighted it in blue, indicating that this stat works not just in-city, but in other situations as well. Okay, so we'll see a bit of that as we go along. So attack stats, this is what he gets. For defense, this is what he gets. HP here. All right, no construction at 1 star, and he gets ground HP debuff 15%. Okay, and like I said again, this is without specialties. So we take a look at the comparison. All right. And for the attack stats in City, I think Menshikov is doing very good on this one. For the defense, depending on the stats, okay, a little bit low, but he does get across the board. So that's cool. HP, same thing. And then the attack debuff there. So objectively speaking, I think Menshikov fully ascended is looking better than Ashoka with 1 star. Okay? That's my opinion. I mean, look at the spread of the stats. That's what I see there. Of course, this 20% range attack in all situations is helpful, but I don't think it covers everything that Menshikov gives you when fully ascended. All right. Now, here we have the stats for Hera. Okay, this is Hera, the 2nd gen Keep Duty Officer with 1 star. Now, you note that she has a lot more blue stats in here. This is not indicating that all the stats here work in every situation, but at least some of the figures in here apply in all situations. Okay, so it's important for us to know that. So this is what she gets for attack, for defense, for HP. Okay, she also gets 15% construction, plus she gets range and siege attack debuff of 20%. All right, now let's compare the generals. I think broadly speaking, when we look at the spread of the stats, Hera has more stats than Ashoka does. Okay, she's the 2nd gen duty officer, Ashoka is the 1st gen, so I guess that makes sense. Plus she's got the 15% here. Now, the interesting thing is when you compare her to Menshikov. Now, for the attack stats, Hera is doing better, in my opinion. Plus, you note that some of the stats work in other situations as well. Okay, same thing for the defense. But on the HP, I think Menshikov is doing a bit better. Plus, Menshikov has, more construction in here. So, without specialties, right, this is what it comes to. And in my opinion, I think Menshikov is still doing pretty good against Hera on this one. Because note that to get Hera to 1 Ascension, you need 2 copies of her. So that means that you've spent anywhere between $200 and $300 to get to this point. That's the important thing. And when you look at the difference, in my opinion, I don't think this difference is worth $200 to $300. Okay, that's just the way I see it. But, if you have any thoughts on this, let me know in the comments and let me know what you think. Now, like I said, a lot of Hera stats have components that work in all situations. So that's an added plus for her. So yes, you can very well make the argument that a 1-star Hera is better than a fully ascended Menshikov, but also factoring in the money that you spent to get to this point. It's an advantage, but I don't know if that advantage is worth the money that you're paying for it. All right? So this is how it shapes up for these duty generals in here. I think Menshikov is still doing very okay against them. Now note, I said that this is without specialties. All right? So if we come to this tab here, okay, we can see what they come to with specialties. All right? Now for Menshikov, he just gets added construction. Okay? The stats remain the same. Ashoka gets a bit of a boost in stats. So the range buff here goes to 40 from 20. He also gets construction as well. But I think other things remain the same. For Hera, buffs pretty much remain the same, but she gets increased construction. She also gets march speed. Plus, if we look towards the end, she also gets some attacking stats. All right, so these are not in-city stats like we have here. These are just purely attacking stats that she gets in there. So, with specialties, I think it still shapes up to being around the same thing. Okay? So, for this set of generals that we've looked at, the Tavern General is holding his own, still pretty okay. The 2nd gen Premium Duty General looks better than the 1st gen, all right? So, yeah, that's good. But remember what we said at the beginning of this video, both the 1st gen and the 2nd gen Premium Duty Generals, by the time you ascend them further, they will definitely be better than the Tavern Duty. But we are doing this comparison because for a lot of people, ascending the Premium Duty General to 1-star is round about what they can manage. That's why this comparison kind of makes sense and why I hope it's helpful. All right, so that's this set. We now want to bring up another set of duty generals. Okay, so for this comparison, these are the duty generals that we want to look at. Okay, so we're looking at Oleg, at Stilicho, and John Adams. All right, so here we have Oleg stats fully ascended. All right, and you can see the breakdown, mostly between ground and mounted. All right, and you note that the mounted is highlighted in blue because in his last ascension, all the stats that you get for mounted there are vanilla stats. Okay, so they apply in all situations. That's why we have this there. But these ground stats that we have here, these are all in city. Okay, then in addition to that, he's got training speed, he's got training capacity. All right, so worth noting there. Now the next general, Stilicho. Okay, these are the stats that he gets when you ascend him to 1 star. All right, now note that the mounted is blue, which means that it has components that apply in all situations. So this is the spread. All right, so this is what it gets for ground, this is what it gets for range, this is what it gets for siege. No training speed, no training capacity. Now for most people, I think they'll be pretty okay with overlooking speed and capacity. So we look at the stats. For ground, a fully ascended Oleg is certainly much better than a Stilicho at 1 star. Okay, so we have that there, we note that, and there's a considerable difference. But Oleg has nothing for range, Oleg has nothing for siege. All right, so if that's what you're basing your defense on, then yeah, Stilicho looks like a good option for you. For mounted, however, remember these are the duty generals for the stables, so mounted duty generals. A fully ascended Oleg gives you better stats than a 1 star Stilicho. Okay, so that's what it is. Now we bring on the next general, John Adams. All right, John Adams is the 2nd generation duty general for the stables, and this is what he gets when you ascend him to 1 star. So even though the stats are highlighted blue, which means that components of them apply in all situations, this is kind of underwhelming, okay, for a 2nd gen premium duty general. Important to note though that John Adams gets in rally stats, okay, in his 1st ascension. So not in city stats, not vanilla stats, not attacking stats, in rally stats. That's what he gets. All right, so when we look at these 3 generals, in my opinion, I think John Adams for the 2nd gen duty general is underwhelming in this side. Okay, now we have Stilicho here. Okay, so Stilicho, okay, he's holding his own. All right, and in my opinion, when you take the difference between the ground and the mounted, I think you could argue this one either way, for which is better. Obviously, it depends on the stats that you want. But remember, Oleg is Tavern, Stilicho is premium. So you've paid money to get Stilicho to this point. And in my opinion, I don't think it's worth what you've paid for. That's just me. But then, again, I'm highlighting that when you ascend these generals further, they will definitely be better than the Tavern. No question. Now, these are without specialties. All right? So, these are the stats that we have when you've included specialties. Right? Now, you see some of the stats, the numbers have gone up for Stilicho and even John Adams. Okay? They've gone up a bit. For Oleg, he gets more training capacity and training speed, which is, whoop whoop. Stilicho also gets training speed here and training capacity. So, yeah, a bit of an improvement for the premium duties when you do their specialties. But again, considering the fact that you've paid for this, I don't see it as a great benefit over the Tavern Duty General at this point. All right? So, that's for this set of duty generals. All right. Again, if you have any questions, comments, arguments, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Okay, so we want to move on to the next set of duty generals that we're going to look at. And we're going to look at the hospital duty generals. Okay, so we've got Skanderberg, we've got Pericles, and we've got Blanche. Okay, so first things first, these are Skanderberg's stats when he's fully ascended. So you can see he gets some stats for range, gets some stats for siege, okay, gets increased hospital capacity and healing speed. All right, that's good. Nothing for ground, nothing for mounted. Okay. Now, we have the stats for Pericles ascended to 1 star. All right. So you can see he's got some HP across the board. And these are highlighted blue, which means that some of them are available in all situations. Okay. He also gets increased hospital capacity. Now, if we compare the two, for the troops that Skanderberg buffs, I think he's doing better than Pericles there. But Pericles gets some HP across the board for the other two. Okay, so that's 10% for ground, 10% for mounted, which Skanderberg doesn't have. I don't know. Is that really worth getting the general? I guess that's an argument to be made. Okay. Note that Pericles ascended 1 star does not have any healing speed. And healing speed, of course, maybe not as significant to a lot of people. But when you're in like battlefield situations or all-stars, that healing speed certainly helps. Okay. Now, we have Blanche here. Okay, so these are the stats for Blanche. And you can see pretty much all her stats are blue, which means that a lot of them apply in all situations. Now, just looking at them, the stats, I think, for Blanche are not particularly high when you compare them to the stats that the other ones buff. But the good thing with Blanche is that she's got a good spread of stats for all the troops. And a lot of them apply in all situations. That's defending and attacking. Okay, Skanderberg, for example, these are all in-city stats. Okay, so yeah. And then Blanche also gets 20% hospital capacity and 20% healing speed. So, in my opinion, I think that Blanche, as the 2nd generation duty general, is certainly better than the 1st gen and also better than the Tavern Duty General here. Okay, although, like I said, when you're looking at the troops that Skanderberg buffs, he's still doing better than Blanche. But Blanche, attack, defense, she's got stats for them there. So, yes, I would certainly put Blanche above that. Okay, now note that these are without specialties. All right, if we come here, okay, we can see the stats with specialties. You can see that some of them have increased. Okay, the hospital capacity and speed for Skanderberg gone up. Pericles, okay, some stats have gone up as well. Blanche, some stats have gone up. But it's still pretty much the same thing. If you have these generals, Pericles or Blanche, at 1 star Ascension, you've paid money to get them to this point. Okay, so the question now is that what you've paid for, is it significantly better than what you would have gotten with the Tavern Duty Generals? Now, in the case of Pericles, I think that's very arguable. Like, I would argue that one all day. Okay, in the case of Blanche, even though the stats are a bit lagging in some cases, but because of the good spread of stats that she has, and also the fact that you can use some of them on attacking and defending, I would give this one to Blanche. Okay, that's my opinion. So, with all the generals that we have looked at now, okay, what's my general conclusion? For a lot of the generals, I think there is a very strong argument to be made that having a Tavern General might be better than having a 1st gen Premium Duty General. And that's when you're factoring in the cost of getting the general ascended to 1 star. All right, I think that the buffs that you get from those duty generals, my personal opinion, I don't think it's worth the money you've paid, especially when you're considering that you could get the Tavern Generals pretty much for free. Now, for the 2nd gen Premium Duty Generals, we've looked at 3 examples, and 2 out of the 3, I think the 2nd gen Premium Duty General ascended to 1 star is better than the fully ascended Tavern Duty General. But I don't think it's in all situations, because like we said for John Adams, right, what John Adams gets 1 star Ascension, I would take the Tavern Duty General over that. But for generals like Hera, for generals like Blanche, yes, argue it however you want, I think they are better. So there you have it. That's my view on the comparison of these duty generals. So, depending on your situation, you might want to go ahead with the Tavern Duty Generals like I've done. You can see I have all the Tavern Duty Generals here fully ascended. Okay? Or you can choose to go the premium route which is obviously very fine. For the premium, you're getting the increased buffs, and to an extent, you are also future-proofing your keep. Because I'm pretty sure that as we go along, Evony is going to make it more accessible for us to get these premium duty generals. But with that being said, if you do have the tavern ones and later you get the premium ones, that's okay, because you can simply dismiss any of these tavern generals and then you will get some of the blood of Ares that you used back, which you can then put into your new premium generals. So in that case, that's all right. If you have any questions or comments that you want to clear up regarding this premium general stuff, please feel free to drop a comment down below. And for anyone that is watching this that is still not clear on the basics of duty generals and how to set them up and everything that you need to know, then you can check out this video here, which walks you through all the essential knowledge you need to know about duty generals. That's it from me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.